Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Books and Bytes.
Ah.
Today we're diving deep into Hannah Arendt's The Human Condition.
Oh, fantastic.
Now I know this one has a reputation for being a little dense,
Mm-hmm.
but
It is.
it's full of these incredible insights that are just as relevant now as they were back when it was published in 1958.
Oh, absolutely.
Like we're talking timeless wisdom here.
Yeah, Arndt's work, it really cuts to the core of what it means to be human, like in this world that just never stops changing.
Right.
She makes us think critically about, how we act, the work that we do, and even just how we engage with the world.
Yeah.
All of that shapes who we are.
Exactly.
And it shapes the society that we create.
So to kind of set the stage for our listeners today,
Okay.
the human condition,
Yeah.
it dives into the fundamental activities that make us human.
Okay.
Things like labor work and action,
Okay.
and how all of these have been like totally transformed by the modern age. Aren't she digs deep into the relationship between the public and private realms,
Okay.
how those lines have gotten super blurry,
Yeah.
and what that means for us,
Yeah.
like our freedom and who we are.
It's huge.
And ultimately, it challenges us to think about how we can reclaim our own agency
Yeah.
and maybe even create a more meaningful world.
I love it. That's a great summary.
All right, so let's jump right into the heart of this thing.
Okay.
Arendt starts by making this distinction between labor work and action.
Mm.
And she says each of these has a unique relationship with the world
Yeah.
and to like the whole human experience.
Yeah.
So she kicks things off with labor,
Right.
which are all those activities that are tied to our basic, biological needs.
Yeah.
Like to survive.
To survive, exactly.
Like
Well,
eating, sleeping, taking care of our bodies, all that stuff.
it's interesting that she points out that in ancient societies, labor was often seen as something negative,
Oh, really?
like almost demeaning. It was something that you would try to delegate or avoid if you could.
Oh, I see.
Like it was definitely not a good thing.
Mhm.
And in fact, in many languages, the word for labor signifies pain or toil.
Oh, wow.
It was often left to slaves or seen as this burden that free men would try to escape.
So then how does that contrast with work?
So work for Arendt is about creating something that lasts,
Oh, okay.
something that outlasts the person who made it.
So like building something.
Exactly. Yeah, think of a craftsman who builds a beautiful table
Okay.
or an architect who designs a building.
Okay, yeah.
It's about bringing something new into the world that's durable, that's going to last.
Something with like a purpose.
Yeah, and Arendt refers to this as the human artifice.
Right.
It's the stuff that we create that shapes and transforms the world around us.
So then where does action fit into all of this?
So action is all about our words and our deeds within the community.
Okay.
It's where we show the world who we are.
Yeah.
We engage in politics. And we strive for something beyond just survival or creating objects.
So it's more about how we interact with others.
Yeah, and Arendt makes this really key point that action can only really happen in a public realm,
Okay.
what she calls a space of appearance, where we can connect with others and distinguish ourselves.
Yeah.
It's in this public realm where we find real freedom and meaning.
So we've got these three distinct things.
Yeah.
Labor, work, and action.
Mm-hmm.
But then Arendt says that the modern age has kind of blurred the lines between all of them.
Right.
And that this rise of what she calls the social realm,
Yeah.
driven by the Industrial Revolution,
Mm-hmm.
it's really made labor the main event,
Right.
even for people whose work goes beyond just, basic survival.
Yeah, the focus on just making and consuming stuff has really crept into every part of our lives.
Yeah.
Even like intellectual pursuits.
I've been thinking.
Even thinking.
Wow.
Arendt gives this example of how artists in the modern age, they started to reject that label of genius
Oh, just
and preferred to be seen as just craftsmen.
like just workers.
Yeah, just another worker.
Yeah.
It reflects this shift where everything starts to look and feel like just another job,
Right.
another task to check off the list.
Like another thing to produce.
Exactly.
Okay, so what's the takeaway here?
Well, she's saying that in this modern world where everything's about producing and consuming,
Yeah.
we've kind of lost sight of how important work and action are.
I see.
The things that give our lives meaning and purpose beyond just staying alive.
Beyond just existing.
Exactly.
So if everything's about just getting things done, what happens to our sense of purpose?
Yeah.
Our individuality, our freedom to choose how we want to live and what we want to contribute.
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, and that brings us to another big idea from Arendt,
Okay.
the difference between the public and the private realms.
Right.
And to illustrate this, she takes us way back to the ancient Greek polis.
Okay.
She describes it as this vibrant space where people could make a name for themselves through their actions
Yeah.
and their words.
Through what they did.
Yeah, and they would strive for what they called immortal fame.
Ah, I like that.
Right, it's pretty cool.
It is.
And what's fascinating is that in the politics, you had this really clear separation between these two spheres.
Okay.
The public realm was all about politics and debate
Mm-hmm.
and, achieving something lasting in the eyes of your peers.
Right.
While the private realm,
Okay.
like the household,
Yeah.
that was all about the necessities of life.
Mm-hmm.
It was ruled by the head of the household,
Okay.
and it was pretty much hidden from public view.
Like two separate worlds.
But, as you might have guessed,
Yeah.
Arendt says that this clear division started to break down
Uh-huh.
with the rise of the modern age.
Of course.
The social realm,
Right.
with its emphasis on, production and consumption,
Yeah.
it kind of invaded both of these spheres,
Yeah.
and the lines got blurry.
For example, Arendt points out that in ancient societies, private property was a way to protect yourself and your home.
Okay.
But in the modern world, property became more about production and getting rich.
I see.
Stuff that used to be considered private started to become everyone's business.
So basically the lines got all mixed up.
Exactly.
And for Arendt, this is a dangerous thing
Yeah.
because it erodes the space for a real public sphere
Mm-hmm.
where we can engage in, meaningful political action.
Right.
And it erodes the space for true privacy
Yeah.
where we can be ourselves and be free from the pressures of society.
It's like we're losing both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. And this blurring of boundaries also ties back to that whole dominance of labor thing we were talking about earlier.
Right.
As the social realm expands the focus on just producing and consuming stuff,
Yeah.
it seeps into every part of our lives.
It does.
And it becomes harder to tell what's really necessary for survival
Uh-huh.
and what's just driven by the demands of this ever-expanding, social machine.
Right.
It's like we're constantly being pulled in every direction,
Mm-hmm.
struggling to find that balance between what's public and what's private.
Yeah.
And we lose sight of what really matters in the process.
That's a great way to put it.
And this brings us to what might be the most fascinating part of Arendt's argument,
Oh, okay. What's that?
the idea of the who
And the who.
and how it's revealed through action.
I like where this is going.
This is where things get a little philosophical.
All right.
But Arendt's basically saying that our true selves,
Mm-hmm.
our unique identities,
Yeah.
they're not something fixed or predetermined.
Interesting.
They emerge through what we do.
Through our actions.
Yeah.
So it's not about what we are, but what we do.
Exactly.
That's powerful.
And this who,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just a collection of our qualities or like our job titles.
Okay.
It's something deeper,
Yeah.
something that unfolds through the stories we create,
I see.
through our actions within the whole web of human relationships.
Oh, wow.
One of my favorite parts of the book is where she describes action and speech as being like those ancient oracles
Oh, wow.
who neither reveal nor hide in words but give manifest signs.
That's beautiful.
And there's this element of mystery
Mm-hmm.
and unpredictability to action.
Yeah.
Like we're always becoming,
Mm-hmm.
always showing something new about ourselves
I like that.
through what we choose to do.
It's kind of unsettling, too, though, right?
Oh, how
But
certain.
because we can't totally control the consequences of our actions.
Yeah, that's true.
We're always taking a leap of faith,
Yeah.
putting ourselves out there,
Yeah.
making ourselves vulnerable to what other people think.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's where Arendt brings in this idea of forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Yeah, as this crucial response to the fact that action is inherently unpredictable.
Oh, okay.
In a world where we can't fully foresee the ripple effects of what we do, forgiveness becomes so important for breaking these cycles of reaction
Right.
and making space for new beginnings.
Forgiveness, that sounds like a pretty radical concept,
It is radical.
especially when you think about politics and public life.
Yeah, but think about it this way.
Okay.
In a world where actions have these unforeseen consequences,
Yeah.
we're bound to mess up.
Mm-hmm.
We're bound to hurt others
Right.
and be hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
And if we just hold on to all that resentment and anger,
Yeah.
it traps us in the past
I see.
and keeps those cycles of blame and revenge going.
So forgiveness is a way to break free from that,
It is,
even though it's hard.
even though it's really hard.
So it's not about saying harmful actions are okay,
No.
but it's about recognizing that we're all human.
Right.
We all make mistakes.
Exactly.
And we all have the potential to change and grow.
It's about seeing the other person, even when they've done wrong, as someone who can change and grow.
It's like recognizing that none of us are defined solely by our worst moments.
And that the possibility of redemption is always there.
That's powerful.
It is.
And it makes you think that maybe forgiveness is crucial for a healthier, more just, and more compassionate world.
It might be the key ingredient.
But that's a conversation for another time.
Definitely a whole other can of worms.
But for now, I think we should give our listener a moment to process all these amazing ideas.
Good idea.
We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into the human condition.
Sounds good. You know, one of the things that really strikes me about the human condition is how relevant it feels today.
It's true.
Even though Arendt was writing in a totally different time.
It's amazing how a book written in the 1950s can speak so directly to the anxieties and challenges we face in the 21st century. I mean, she didn't have the internet, social media, any of the tech we take for granted.
Nope.
But her analysis of world alienation, it seems almost prophetic.
Totally. I mean, think about how much of our lives now are mediated through screens.
It's crazy.
We work online. We socialize online.
Yeah.
We consume information and entertainment online.
That's all online.
It's like we're living in this virtual world that's separate from the physical world around us.
Almost like a disconnect.
Exactly. And that separation, that detachment, that's exactly what Arendt was warning us about.
It's like we're constantly plugged into this digital matrix, but increasingly disconnected from the tangible world.
Yeah.
From the actual people and places around us. And you can feel that disconnect in so many aspects of modern life.
Absolutely.
Like from the way we work to the way we relate to each other.
You know, Arendt argues that this kind of world alienation, it can lead to a loss of common sense.
Oh, wow.
Like a decline in our ability to judge and make sense of the world.
So we're not just losing touch with the physical world.
Right.
But also our ability to think critically. And have real conversations with people who might see things differently.
Exactly. We're not experiencing the world directly anymore.
Yeah.
It's all through these filters of technology that shape our perceptions and influence how we interpret things.
So it's like we're adrift in this sea of information.
Yeah.
Constantly bombarded with all these different narratives, struggling to find our bearings.
It's overwhelming.
Totally.
But, you know, Arendt offers some ways to resist this trend.
Okay, like what?
One of the most important, she says, is to reclaim the public realm.
Okay.
To create spaces where we can actually come together face to face.
So getting off our screens.
Yeah.
And interacting with each other in the real world.
Exactly. Putting down our phones.
Yeah.
And engaging in those messy, unpredictable conversations. That force us to confront different viewpoints. And actually work together to find common ground.
I think that's something that's often lost in our digital age. Where so much of our communication happens online.
Right.
It's easy to reduce people to avatars.
Yeah.
To forget that they're real human beings.
Yeah, with their own complexities and experiences behind those profiles.
It is a challenge.
It is.
But it's not impossible.
No, it's not. Arendt reminds us that we have the power to create these spaces, whether it's through community organizing or political activism, or even just having more face-to-face conversations with our friends and neighbors.
Right, just connecting in person.
It's about recognizing that true human connection. It can't happen solely through screens.
It's deeper than that.
It is. We need to be in each other's presence.
Yeah.
To experience the world together. To create a shared reality.
And it's in that shared reality, that space of appearance, that we can start to weave the stories that bind us together and give meaning to our individual lives.
It's all connected.
Which brings us to another important part of Arndt's work.
Okay.
The power of storytelling.
Storytelling is so crucial for Ernst.
Yeah.
Because it's how we make sense of the world.
Right.
How we give meaning to our experiences and how we connect with each other across time and space.
It's like a shared history.
It is. It's how we transmit values, preserve memories, and build that sense of shared history and identity.
So it's not just about entertainment.
Right.
It's about creating a shared narrative that helps us understand who we are and where we fit in.
Exactly. It's about finding our place within this larger human story that unfolds across generations.
Arendt says that action, meaningful action that reveals the who, it always produces stories.
It does.
These stories might be about great deeds or heroic figures,
Yeah.
but they can also be about the everyday lives of ordinary people.
The small acts of courage, kindness, resilience that shape our communities and remind us of our shared humanity.
But these stories, even the small ones, they help to create a sense of continuity of shared history and belonging.
They do.
They remind us that we're not just isolated individuals, but part of a larger web of human relationships.
That extends across time and space.
I love that.
And in a world that's increasingly fragmented and disconnected, those stories become even more important.
They do.
They offer a way to bridge divides, to foster empathy, and to remind us of the values and aspirations that bind us together.
So by telling our stories,
Yeah.
and by listening to the stories of others, we're creating a kind of antidote to world alienation.
Right.
We're weaving this tapestry of meaning.
Yeah.
That helps us understand ourselves, our world, and our place in it.
That's beautifully said.
And that's something no algorithm or social media platform can replicate.
It's something real.
It is.
You know, Arndt's work, it goes beyond just diagnosis. It's a call to action.
A call to do something.
Yeah, a call to reclaim our agency, to engage in the world.
Yeah.
And to create a more just and meaningful future.
And that message feels more relevant than ever.
Absolutely.
Given all the challenges we face today.
Yeah.
Climate change, political polarization, the erosion of democratic norms. It can feel like we're living in this time of unprecedented crisis and uncertainty.
It's a lot.
It is.
But Arendt reminds us that even in the darkest of times, the human capacity for action, for creating new beginnings, it remains.
Arndt's work gives us a framework.
It does.
For thinking about how we might navigate these challenges.
Yeah.
How we might resist world alienation. And how we might create a world that's more humane, more just, and more meaningful.
It's a roadmap for a better future.
And speaking of a more just world, one of the things that really struck me in The Human Condition was Arndt's discussion of the relationship between labor work and freedom.
Right. She argues that in the modern age, labor has become like the dominant mode of human activity.
We're so focused on just producing and consuming that we've lost sight of the importance of work, of creating things that actually contribute to the human world.
You've become obsessed with efficiency, productivity.
Right.
It's the endless pursuit of economic growth.
Yeah.
Often at the expense of our well-being and the health of the planet.
Here she sees this focus on labor as a threat to freedom.
She does.
Because it traps us in this cycle of endless toil, leaving us with no time or energy to engage in the activities that actually give our lives meaning.
Exactly. When everything becomes about just getting things done, we lose sight of why we're working in the first place.
We forget the purpose.
You do. We become cogs in a machine.
Wow.
Rather than free agents who can shape our own destiny.
That's a powerful image.
Our lives become dominated by the demands of the market. The pressure to produce and consume, the relentless pursuit of economic efficiency.
So it's not just about the type of work we do.
Right.
But our relationship to work itself.
Exactly.
It's about questioning the values we prioritize, the ways we measure success and progress.
And the assumptions that underpin our economic systems.
But how do we do that? In a world where so much of our work feels meaningless and dehumanizing.
Right, where we're often reduced to numbers on a spreadsheet. Cogs in this vast impersonal machine.
It's a tough question.
It is. But Arndt suggests that we need to start by recognizing the inherent value of work. Of creating something new and lasting in the world.
So rediscovering the joy of craftsmanship.
Exactly.
The satisfaction of creating something beautiful and enduring. And that sense of purpose that comes from contributing to something bigger than ourselves. So it's about finding ways to connect our work to something larger than ourselves. To see it as a contribution to the human artifice. To rediscover that art of making the joy of creation.
And a power of human ingenuity to shape the world.
But that's a huge shift.
It is.
It would require a fundamental rethinking of our economic and social systems.
It would.
A shift away from this constant chase for profit and efficiency towards a more humane and sustainable way of living and working.
But Arndt reminds us that such a rethinking, it's not only possible, but necessary.
If we want to create a world where work is a source of freedom and meaning,
not just a way to survive.
And it starts with questioning those assumptions, reimagining what work could be.
And challenging the values that drive our systems.
It's a call to reclaim the dignity of work.
It is.
To recognize its power to make us flourish.
And to create a world where our labor contributes to the common good.
Instead of just lining the pockets of a select few.
Exactly. You know, this all ties back to another key theme in the human condition.
Okay.
The distinction between the public and the private realms.
Right.
Argues that these two realms, they've become blurred in the modern age.
Yeah, we talked about that a bit earlier.
Right. How the rise of the social realm, with its focus on, making and buying stuff, has kind of invaded both the public and private spheres.
Right.
And eroded those boundaries between them.
It's like we've lost sight of what makes each realm unique and important.
Exactly. Things that used to belong to the private realm, like raising kids or managing a household.
Yeah.
Those have become public concerns.
Wow.
Subject to scrutiny and regulation.
So everything's out in the open now.
Right. And at the same time, the public realm has been taken over by the logic of the market.
Oh, I see.
Where everything's seen as something to be bought and sold.
So on the one hand, the private sphere is shrinking.
Right.
With less space for individual freedom and autonomy.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, the public sphere is becoming more and more dominated by market forces, which undermines our ability to engage in real political action.
It does.
And work towards the common good.
Exactly. And Arendt sees this blurring of boundaries as a major threat to both freedom and meaning.
So what's the solution?
Well, she argues that we need to reclaim a sense of the distinctness of these realms to recognize that they serve different purposes and require different ways of engaging.
So the public realm is about action and speech.
Right.
About coming together to create a shared world.
Yeah.
While the private realm is about the necessities of life. About taking care of ourselves and those closest to us.
It's about finding that balance.
Right. Yeah. Not choosing one over the other.
Exactly.
But recognizing the importance of both.
Yeah, for a truly fulfilling life.
It makes me wonder if part of the reason we feel so overwhelmed these days is because those boundaries have become so porous.
It's like we're always on.
Yeah, always plugged in.
No clear separation between work and leisure.
Right.
Public and private.
Exactly.
It's exhausting.
And that brings us back to Arendt's concept of action.
Okay.
And its power to reveal the who.
Right. It's in the public realm that we have the chance to act, to speak, to show the world who we really are.
And to distinguish between the who and the what.
Exactly. The what is all about our qualities, our job titles, our roles. But the who is something much deeper.
Something that comes through in our actions.
Yes, through how we engage with the world.
And revealing that who is always a risk.
It is. Because we can't control how our actions will be received.
Right. Or what impact they'll have.
It's a leap of faith.
A step into the unknown.
It takes courage.
To put ourselves out there like that.
Yeah, to make ourselves vulnerable to judgment.
But it's essential for real freedom and meaning.
Absolutely. Without action.
Yeah.
Without that willingness to put ourselves out there. We become just spectators.
Wow.
Passively watching the world go by.
It makes you think about all the ways we hold ourselves back.
It does.
All the fears that stop us from fully embracing our capacity for action.
Yeah, fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of the unknown.
It can be so paralyzing.
But Arendt reminds us that action, true action, it always comes with some uncertainty.
Right. We can't predict the future?
Nope. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't act. In fact, it's in the face of uncertainty.
Yeah.
That our courage is truly tested.
That makes sense.
And our who is most fully revealed.
And that's where forgiveness comes in.
It does.
It's not just about forgiving others.
Right.
But also forgiving ourselves.
Forgiving ourselves for our mistakes.
Yeah, for the times we've fallen short.
Yeah, for the times we've acted in ways that had unintended consequences.
It's a way to break free from guilt and resentment.
To create space for growth and change.
And new beginnings.
It's a powerful reminder.
Yeah.
That even when we're imperfect, we can still choose to act.
Yeah.
To try to make the world better.
And to embrace the unpredictable beauty of being human.
Beautifully said, Arendt's work is a deep reflection on what it means to be alive.
It is.
It's a call to reclaim our agency. And an invitation to embrace the beauty and fragility of our world.
To our listener, if you haven't already,
I
highly recommend checking out The Human Condition by Hannah Arendt.
It's a challenging read.
It is.
But it's so worth it.
In a world that often feels overwhelming and uncertain,
Yeah.
it gives us a way to understand who we are, what we can do, and how we can create a more just and meaningful future.
I couldn't agree more. It's a book that will stick with you.
Oh, yeah.
Long after you finished it.
And it might just change how you see the world.
It might.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the human condition.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep those pages turning.